Namaste. How do you accept criticism without collapsing? This is one of my biggest strengths. It's taken me several years to go from a fixed to a growth to a beginner's mindset. And in this video, I'll share tools with you, including medical evidence on how you can live in neurospiritual sovereignty, meaning you don't have all of these things that people say let you get emotionally disturbed. That's what neurospiritual sovereignty means that you're not emotionally connected to feedback, whether it's good or bad. I've had many coaches in my life, but the biggest coach in my life was my dad. My dad was abused when he was growing up, and he abused the crap out of me, physically and mentally. I would say, and I would argue that if my dad said I was stupid and I was dumb, you're pathetic, you're gonna be good for nothing, maybe one time, okay, maybe twice. If he would have said this once or twice, I probably would have believed it instead of him saying it every single day. I mean, I have so much compassion for him today, and I have so much empathy for him. Not that I feel sorry for him or I feel bad for him. I know what it feels like to have those narcissistic traits, because when he displaced those on me, I was doing the same thing to others, meaning I was putting them down, being condescending, because I hated myself. I'm grateful that I've never done anything physically, calling people things that they don't deserve, saying things about them that they don't deserve. You're bringing them up just to put them down. My dad did that to me my whole life. I've seen people sending me comments, messages on how do you accept criticism? You got somebody that's bringing you up and putting you right back down. This is where you want to figure out a way to graduate from that fixed to the growth to the beginner's mindset. Let's take this as an example. The fixed mindset. Oh, can you believe that they said that? They're just haters. They don't know what they're talking about. They're stupid. Oh, you know what? It has nothing to do with you. That's probably true. It does not have anything to do with you. But in a fixed mindset, you would call a friend up and you would say, can you believe that person said that? Look at all of the things that I'm doing. And then they agree with you. That's a fixed mindset. Oh, it is what it is. Haters are going to hate. That's a fixed mindset. What about a growth mindset? Oh, they said something, maybe I'll work on it. This person gave you some bad feedback. Let's say your dad did, or your mom or your friend gave you bad feedback. Okay, fine. Maybe what I'll do is I'll take it to a coach. Maybe what I'll do is I'll look up a YouTube video on it. Maybe what I'll do is I'll write. My mom and I only knew each other for the last 7 years of her life. We lived together until I was about 8 years old, and then we got separated, but we were really never together there because we were in and out of domestic violence shelters. Adult Protective Services was always around. Child Protective Services was always around. I mean, we never sat down and had a meal together or something. There was always some type of emotional disturbance. During my teenage years, my mom and I lived together for a couple of years. But during that time, I was in and out of juvenile detention, and my mom was in and out of psychiatric facilities. She had schizophrenia, and she was going in and out of institutions. We lived together for the last 7 years of our lives. We had dinners together. We traveled together. We didn't talk though. We were not emotionally dependent on each other. We didn't have conversations, but my mom would tell me about some of the things that she'd experienced. She didn't have anybody else to talk to. After my mom died, I realized that I had to do something. I didn't want to eat bad. I didn't want to drink. I didn't want to drug again. I didn't want to smoke cigarettes. I didn't want to gamble. I had to figure it out. Throughout my time in EMDR, eye movement desensitization reprocessing therapy, which I did for probably 2 to 3 times a month for 3 years. I was doing all kinds of therapy like that for several years, but EMDR and dialectical behavioral therapy, I did really often. I did that 2 to 3 times a month, sometimes even once or twice a week for several years, maybe 2 to 3 years, 3 years. But I've been to therapy since 2016, and I've been going on average probably once or twice a month. But there was probably about 5 years, which took me 5 years to go from self-hate to self-love. I was going to therapy 2 to 3 times a month without fail. I wanted to study mindfulness. I looked at all the books, YouTube videos, mindfulness courses. I listened to an audiobook. I read the small book of mindfulness, or whatever that's called. And in about a year and a half, I felt that I was pretty good. But then I wanted to speak about it. I wanted to speak on this concept that I've developed called mind hygiene. For me to be confident in that, what I did was I got a course completed certification, which took about 6 months, in mindfulness-based stress reduction. The first day I started, I'm like, you know what? Fine, I have this growth mindset. At that time, I'd been to at least 4 therapists. I probably hired like 30 coaches. Total in my life, I've been to 6 therapists, and I've had paid over 60 coaches. And I'm constantly being coached. And that's where that growth mindset came in. The other thing about it is that during my cocaine-induced manic episode, everybody saw it. What else can I do? I can either say I'm a drug addict, or I can say I'm growing. So I was forced into growth, if you want to maybe think about it like that, which is a blessing for me today, being sober for over 7 years. During that time where I did the mindfulness course, I can still remember that first day in class where I sat down, I looked at the teacher, I looked at the other students, and I said, what if I pretend I don't know mindfulness? I didn't know what a beginner's mindset was at that time. You can see how excited I'm getting, because that shifted my whole perspective on life in general. What if I approach, I'm getting tingles as I think about it. What if I approach life like I don't know anything? Fine, you can call it the curiosity mindset. You can call it the intrigue mindset. I called it the beginner's mindset. When you approach life with the beginner's mindset and you don't judge the outcomes, meaning they're not good or bad, criticism will no longer affect you. Of course, when somebody says something really bad about me, it does hit the amygdala still, but it bypasses it pretty quickly. And I accept it very quickly. Before, I would drown in that type of hatred, self-hatred, I'm dumb, stupid, low self-esteem, low confidence, for like probably even months, and I'll drink, drug, eat bad to try to quiet the amygdala with some quick dopamine hits. But now it might hit me maybe like 4 or 5%. Purposely, I'll go lie down for 3 hours. I'll try to feel bad for 3 hours. Fine, I'll even eat bad if I can find something, that I'll even eat bad. Maybe I'll even order a pizza if I feel like it. I'll go lie down for like 3 hours and I'll just schedule it in. I'll put it on a schedule and I'll say, let's just feel bad. But after that, there's no more feeling bad. Because when I do that, then I'm still 100% almost. I'm only feeling bad like 10 to 15%. You can see where I'm going with this. Before, I would feel bad 100%. But now that's not good or bad. Let's see how I can learn from that. Let's see how we can treat this as a beginner's mindset instead of even a growth mindset. And I always like to tell patients or people that I talk to, people that I speak to, I'm a speaker, and I'll say, if you can approach life with a beginner's mindset and believe in your limitations, you'll be able to solve any problem in the world, so long as it's within your limitations. With that said, let's go over some medical evidence here. The amygdala hijack, when cortisol spikes, somebody says something to you. When we're criticized, amygdala perceives threat, triggering the hypothalamo-pituitary axis, flooding the body with cortisol. Incremental exposure builds prefrontal resilience. Studies show that people with stronger prefrontal activity before trauma are more resilient after stress. This is a study by Van der Werf et al. In 2020. Animal studies show that rats given control over mild stress build plasticity that protects them from future stress. The translation of this is that manageable repeated exposures, your mind learns to regulate the amygdala instead of collapsing it. If you were to take time to write down all of the memories that you considered were bad, reprocess them, you no longer have resentments towards them, they're not powerful anymore. They're powerless. You've accepted it. When you don't have that renting space in your head and you have this equity available in your mind to release, imagine that day where you can just figure all of these things out. And that's where you can reduce that hit on the amygdala, that stress response of cortisol, reduce it by writing and engaging the prefrontal cortex instead. The anterior prefrontal cortex activity predicts resilience after trauma in humans. Study with police recruits, those that had higher baseline activation in the anterior prefrontal cortex, as well as dorsal medial frontal pole, the areas in the brain that deal with emotions, before trauma exposure had lower post-traumatic stress disorder symptoms development after trauma. So as an example, my dad is beating me, emotionally disturbing me, saying that you're stupid, you're dumb, you're never gonna amount to anything. And then I work through all of that, okay? And then somebody says that to me again. So when you can activate the prefrontal cortex and say, look, whatever they're saying has nothing to do with me. We already have understood that. Let me write it down. Let me accept it. So now there's nothing to fix. There's nothing to control. There's nothing to deal with. You've already radically accepted it. The power is completely gone. Okay, let me feel bad. All right, schedule that in. And then after that, what can I do to learn from this? This person is giving me feedback. We might as well use it to our advantage. The implication means that you have a stronger prefrontal regulatory control over threat and emotional responses, is where you resist the amygdala being hijacked. And when you're neurospiritual sovereign and you attain neurospiritual sovereignty, you can alchemize your resentments in real time. So if something happens to you, somebody says something to you, you're like, okay, I know I'm going to engage the prefrontal cortex by writing. Sure, Mind Hygiene is supported by medical evidence. There'll be a link in the description to a Mind Hygiene guide that you can follow along. However, you don't need my writing process. You can use anybody's writing process. You don't need anybody. That's the point of this. The point is that you can attain neurospiritual sovereignty, or you can be emotionally free by yourself when nobody's watching, with nobody's validation. You don't need a doctor, a therapist, a coach, a medication, a family member, a friend, or a partner. You know why? Because I've done it without all of these people saying, you got this. Now, we're not saying that they didn't direct me. We're not saying that the paid coaches, the people who don't have bias, the paid therapists didn't guide me. But that's nothing. But that's not external validation. Imagine if I had all of these people guiding me half of the day, okay? For 8 hours in the day, I have a therapist, a coach, a high-level Hollywood personal trainer, a Hollywood chef, but then for 8 hours, I'm like, I'll just do whatever. No, that's not gonna work. You have to do this 24 hours a day when nobody's watching, when nobody's helping you, when nobody's saying, you got this. That's you living in the monastic fire and you developing that neurochemical consecration, I surrender to my higher purpose. I'm not gonna allow the amygdala to hijack my life, and if somebody says something to me, I'll approach it with the beginner's mindset. The anterior cingulate cortex in the brain will develop this acceptance muscle. And when you keep on doing that over the years, you'll see, and you can see how I said over the years, this is not gonna happen right away, but you have to keep on writing about it. And the more you write, the better it gets. If you found value in this video, please subscribe, hit the notification bell. I'll be dropping videos Wednesdays at 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Share the video, like it, drop a comment, and let me know if you found value in this and how I can make the video better. Namaste.